Hi, Gerhard Bloom, once again, looking at the tyranny and the tragedy of the social justice movement. So more on this absolutely disastrous situation in Israel. It is being defined as Israel's 9/11, and for good reason. Thousands of rockets have, since my last video, more rockets, more civilians dying. And undoubtedly, you'll turn to CNN and BBC and they'll talk about those Palestinians being killed and the Israelis being killed. The difference that makes a difference is that Israel does everything it can to limit the lives of innocent people lost. On the Palestinian Hamas side, the terrorist side, they are deliberately targeting anything that moves, men, women, and children. Happening now. Women and children being marched into a room and being gunned down in cold blood. Imagine the horror. Imagine the fear that they are going through. People having their throats slit by these murderous thugs. And so BBC, CNN, they're not going to tell you exactly what's going on. Israel as a professional army, professional soldiers, they follow the rules of war. And yes, innocent civilians will die on the Palestinian side. I take no joy in that. But this is utterly impossible to avoid. And Israel, again, conducts itself consistent with the laws of war. The Hamas and the Palestinian terrorists never have, absolutely never have. And yes, you will have the squad, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and AOC talking about, they're so oppressed. They see no future and no hope. And they have no choice. You ever hear of this kind of terrorist activity coming out of the people of Tibet? And they are and were systematically persecuted and tortured and murdered by the communist Chinese government. And no killing innocent women and children. No, they just don't do it because it's a moral horror show. And credit to Joe Biden here. A full-throated support for Israel and its right to defend itself. Somebody somewhere must have tapped him on the shoulder and said, Mr. President, you know that leftist nonsense you've been peddling for the last 3 years? You need to stop it. You need to get behind Israel because there's a good guy in this picture and there's a bad guy in this picture. And in this case, it's utterly unambiguous. So yes, a full-throated support for Israel. On the downside here, just 2 days ago, Secretary Blinken released $75 million of taxpayer money support Palestinian aid. Why is Palestinian territory so poor? It's all this weapons buying, construction of underground tunnels. Yes, far too much of this international aid is going towards supporting terrorist causes and projects. And it gave Iran $6 billion. It released $6 billion of Iranian funds. Why? Because the Iranian regime is a supporter of terrorism. It is a number one supporter of Hamas, right? The people who are supporting this violence and atrocities in Israel right now. They get rockets and weapons as well from Iran and from Syria. Absolutely awful. And you need to know, when you hear about these deaths on both sides, these are not the least bit morally or militarily equivalent. Not at all. Peace can come to the Palestinian territories anytime they decide. Time after time. The Palestinians have rejected generous peace settlements. Land for peace and two-state solution. No. As long as it's, lost to this militant Islamic ideology, there's zero prospect for peace. Absolutely zero. I expect in the next day or two a massive invasion of the Gaza Strip, and a good thing. And one thing, the $6 billion, the Biden administration, That was to release American hostages. You give hostage takers ransom, guess what? I need a little bit more money. I'm going to take a hostage. Israel does not negotiate with terrorists and hostage takers. They kill them. Good. Couldn't happen fast enough. And I mentioned this in the previous video. There's a warning on the table to Hamas and these terrorists. You kill these civilian hostages, or the military hostages. It's a crime against war. They're going to come out and reach you, and they don't care. Israel doesn't care. If it takes years, they don't care. They will follow these guys to the end of the earth. And I mean that literally. Doesn't matter. They can go to South America. They can go to Europe. Israel, Mossad will track them down and kill them. Great. That is justice. Anyways, thank you so much for your time and attention. Hope you enjoyed the video. Prayers for those people of Israel. And yeah, check out my book. It is important. Not important because I wrote it. I wrote it because the issues could not be more important. But prayers for the people of Israel. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Bye-bye now.